you can always come up with an excuse. Always, always, always. Something can come up that is valid. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Better Basics Podcast. I am Matt Stone, and as always, I have my best friend, Dylan Waldheater. Dylan, it's good to see you, man. How are we doing this week?
You too, brother. Doing good. How was your Memorial Day weekend?
Oh, dude, it was awesome. Up here, it was busy as hell, as you might expect, but the weather was really nice. I got to go to the beach. I played some pickleball. Yeah, it was an awesome weekend. How about you?
It's 10 after 8 and it's still light outside. I'm
It's
psyched
the
about that.
best.
It's the best. Man, you
Yeah,
just think about December and it's like 4:30 and dark. It's crazy.
I know. I know. It's like I don't know how I get through it every single year because
No,
this just seems so right.
so
But
right.
yeah, man. Well, we are here to dig into some of the basic concepts of health and wellness. We'll get into our main topic of the day, but I know that you brought something to talk about for the hot topic of the week.
Yeah, last week we brought up some nutrition tips and some things you can implement in your life to improve your nutrition, but we're trying to kind of highlight and focus on things that are easy, convenient, etc. And one of the things we brought up was Fairlife protein milks. Staple in my diet. I really like them. They taste good. They're different from like a protein powder in that it's still the milk. They just filter out the majority of the fat and the sugar, and the um, resulting sort of product is just a super high protein milk. Tastes really good, but it comes in a plastic bottle. And interestingly, over the course of the last week, somebody brought to my attention a study that Consumer Reports had done looking at a variety of different products and focusing on phthalates and the presence of phthalates in different food products. And phthalates are chemical compounds. They've been developed in the last century. They're used to make plastics more durable. So in the plastic bottle that different products might come um, in order to make them more durable, they add these chemical compounds. The issue is that they are leaching into the product itself, and they're endocrine disruptors. So the chemical compounds themselves actually mimic hormones in our body. And so repeated exposure to these chemical compounds could have some adverse health consequences. And unfortunately, in the Fairlife, it was the Core Power product. That wasn't the one that we highlighted, but I think we mentioned it briefly. They found insanely high. I think it was the highest of all the products they tested
Out of all the
uh,
packaged stuff,
out of the packaged goods. Yeah.
yeah, and it was yeah, it's like it's so 20,452 total phthalates per serving, and that's in nanograms. So I mean, like, what does that really mean? How much is that?
Yeah. It's over. That piece of it's over my head. It's a shitload. Like it's a
Right.
lot.
Well, yeah, and
Um,
just comparing it to, to a lot of other things, you see like Coca-Cola in a plastic bottle has just over 6,000. Pepsi in a can, just under 3,000. Gatorade, right around 1,800. Or and no, excuse me, I was saying thousands. Those were yeah, 6,000. Pepsi was 3,000, and then yeah, Gatorade uh, is 1,800. So yeah, I mean significantly less than the Core Power, and it's interesting that it is just the Core Power one and not their other products, which is like a little confusing to me. I was doing some research as to like how these phthalates get into specific products, but it's just really interesting that even with a company, it can just vary so much from product to product.
yeah, it is interesting. I think it has to do with exposure to light and exposure to heat.
Yeah,
Um,
well, they were saying like if something is ultra pasteurized, that could have an effect because they have to heat it to
hmm,
such high temperatures that it could allow for leaching in when it goes through like plastic tubing and the like gaskets and stuff that it's all passing through.
Yeah, you probably remember the big push to remove BPA from different plastic products, bisphenol A. Phthalates are very similar. They're just BPA was the chemical of the moment and gained enough attention to be removed from these products. The impact on humans isn't all that well studied just yet. It's gaining more attention with phthalates specifically, but it's very well studied in animals. And again, they're endocrine disruptors. So they mimic your hormones, which can have all sorts of different impacts on bodily function in animals. Repeatedly, we see that they have androgenic effects, which means they decrease testosterone in animals. But there have been some limited epidemiological studies on humans that have shown that prenatal exposure to high levels of phthalates can have an impact on children's neurodevelopmental and neurobehavioral outcomes. So we're
Yeah, so
starting to learn more about the impacts on humans.
I think that's a good place for us to kind of like land on things as far as our audience goes. I mean, if you look at the study, it's in essentially everything. If you assume if something is packaged or made in a factory, you can assume that there are some levels of these phthalates in them, and that's something that is a scary thought. But our bodies are resilient, and our bodies do a really good job of processing all kinds of stuff. And so this is something that we just wanted to provide this information to you guys because we were just talking about it last week, and it's something that we want to make sure that we're totally honest with when we learn about this stuff. We're gonna give everybody the information. It's not to say that you need to avoid them, but it's definitely something to consider. I mean, I know, and I was the one that said like I love those core powers because it's like 42 grams of protein in a bottle,
Mhm.
and I'm definitely going to think twice, and definitely, start to limit my consumption and just look for protein in other ways. And I think that's the biggest thing that we can say to you guys is just, look to eat more, whole foods, things that are more natural, less processed and packaged goods. And there are so many reasons why that's going to benefit your lifestyle. And this is just one of them.
Yeah, I think that's well said. The fact of the matter is this shit's in everything. Like if it's a packaged good, it's going to be in there. This raised a flag because it was so high in a specific product that we called out.
Yeah.
But you're
Yep.
right. It's just another kind of motivator to eat less packaged food. Not to be afraid of it per se, but rather to be conscious of it and perhaps choose other options when available to you.
Did you look at the fast food list?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so they also studied a bunch of different fast food chains,
Hmm.
and the number one fast food item was our boys over at Wendy's.
Yeah.
The crispy chicken nuggets had 33,980 total phthalates per serving in nanograms. And that's significantly high. The next highest fast food item was Moe's Southwest chicken burrito at 24,000. So almost 10,000 total phthalates per serving higher. Number three, Chipotle chicken burrito, 20,000. But Dylan, guess who is only on this list one time? There's a lot of return culprits, but the team over at Taco Bell
For
only has one item, the chicken burrito, 4,720 phthalates per serving, and that's the only item on this list from Taco Bell. And there's about it looks like 15, 20 items that are listed. So
just
uh,
another reason to eat more Taco Bell. What
that's
the
right.
fuck's it doing in the like, it makes sense that it's in a packaged beverage, right? Because this stuff will leak from the packaging or whatever they're using
Yeah.
to what the fuck is it doing in a chicken burrito? And I wonder if it's the tortilla because
Well, so
it
I
sounds
was
like
looking into it, Dylan. There are so many different ways that this stuff can get in the food. It starts so if you're looking at the meat specifically, it can get in what one of the articles that I was reading was saying that through contaminated water is a big way for
Mhm.
meat and produce. But then also, you look at these big fast food restaurants and they're getting passed around. They're going from different plant to different plant. They're being handled by people with gloves, and
Mhm.
all different kinds of stuff. And these are just theories that I was reading about. So I really don't know, but it sounds like, up and down the chain, these phthalates are being our foods are getting exposed to them. And
Mhm.
and so that is just another reason to shrink that circle, to
Mhm.
really just try and know where your food and drink is coming from as often as possible. I mean, because it's crazy. It's in everything.
One other quick plug in the hot topic category, because we asked our listeners last week to give us a shout if they were aware of any fast food options that were favorable in terms of protein to calories.
Oh,
And
all
our
right.
listener Sam shot me a note and pointed out that the Culver's grilled chicken sandwich, and he adds a little buffalo sauce, 5 calories in the buffalo sauce, with a lightly buttered hoagie bun, only has 390 calories and 41 grams of protein.
Damn, really?
Yes.
And that's a good sandwich too.
That's a good yeah, that's not your, your McChicken. That's a nice chicken breast on there. Gotta get it
Yeah.
grilled chicken, but yeah, that's a winner.
Dang. All right, Sam. Shout out Sam. That's amazing. I am gonna have to give that a shot. The problem for me is try and get me to go to Culver's and
Not
and
happening for me
not
either.
have not
I'm
have
having
a
a double
butter
Butterburger
burger.
with cheese at the
It is.
works. Yeah,
Yeah,
you don't go to Culver's for a chicken sandwich. In
exactly.
fact, I was
Yeah.
there after golf league last week, and I was like it was shortly after Sam pointed it out. He just listened to our episode, and I was in the drive-through thinking to myself, "I'm gonna try this," and by the time I got up to order,
Blacked out.
Butterburger all day.
I love that. All right. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. So, what we wanted to talk about this week are the top 5 strategies for staying fit while managing a busy lifestyle. So, this is something that, I mean, it's just one of the major excuses that you hear, oh, I would go to the gym, but I don't have time. I have kids and a job and a partner at home, and these are all really valid excuses. But at the end of the day, that's what they are. And so we just wanted to, we came up with what we thought were our top 5 strategies that you can try and implement to stay fit, even if you got a bunch going on.
Yeah, we both have a friend, Justin. And in college, he was involved in everything. To the point where he got this like reputation for being a super busy guy. And it was like he was proud of it. And I'll never forget a buddy of ours told him one time that he if he didn't have enough room on his plate, he needed to get a bigger fucking plate. And we always got a kick out of that. And I think there's some truth in that. Like we all have our plate and we have maybe 5 to 10 things we prioritize in our lives that fit on that plate. And I think a lot of our audience, fitness and exercise maybe aren't thing one, two, three, four, or even five. And that's okay. But we either have to make the plate a little bit bigger or we have to think about some of those other things that are on the plate that are in the way, that are getting in the way of making diet and exercise a greater priority. And so I think the first point to make here is just that. Like you at some point you do have to prioritize it. You have to understand its value, its benefit in your life, and you have to look at what's on that plate and find the room to fit it in. Like you just have to eat the frog. If it's not your favorite thing to do, find the components of exercise and nutrition that you enjoy enough to make the room for it. I think what gets in the way sometimes is we have this vision of what it means to be into exercise and fitness. And we think that means we have to go all in. And if we don't go all in, it's not having any positive impact on our life, which we know is not at all true. And so, one thing you can start to do is look at your plate, look at your calendar, and figure out, where can I schedule this in? How much time am I willing to give to it? Where can I squeeze it in? And literally schedule it in. If it's 10 minutes when you wake up in the morning before your kids get up, and you're going to do 50 push-ups and 50 air squats, that's fantastic. That is a very good place to start. So I think the tip here is just to be looking at your full bucket, your full plate, whatever you want to call it, of priorities, and start to think about, where can I schedule this into my life that makes sense in the kind of in the full plate of priorities that I otherwise have, which include the things you said: kids, work, family, etc.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at my calendar with all my clients on there and everything that I have to get done, in there is when I'm going to work out, because I found that if I just said, "Well, I'm going to do it later," I'll get it done. I'll find time. You can always come up with an excuse. Always, always, always. Something can come up that is valid. A good reason not to work out. But if it's on the calendar, if you treat it like you treat your job, treat it like a meeting, then you're gonna show up to it. And that is just, it's a good way to just stay on track and to hold yourself accountable. So I mean, I love that. I have to schedule, I schedule all of my workouts. Uh but I also like what you said about getting up in the morning. If the goal of the day is just, I'm gonna get some push-ups in, some push-ups will always be better than no push-ups.
Mhm.
If you are currently doing nothing, anything will get you moving in the right direction. And that is, something that I think is really interesting. And I challenge a lot of people, because now, that we've been doing this, for long enough, where people, come up, and that is a constant conversation topic. Oh man, I want to be healthy. I want to exercise. I just don't know where to start, and I don't have the time. And the thing that I always challenge everybody, same thing. It's okay, well, if you're doing nothing now, tomorrow do one push up and one squat. That's
Mhm.
it. And then the next day do two. And if that's feeling good, the next day do three. And if you can just start to make those little adjustments trending in the right direction, over the days, weeks, months, and years to follow, you are going to set yourself up for an insane amount of success. So I think you're exactly right. You got to make it a priority, put it on the schedule, and start small. And thinking about that, another thing that we have on our list is to invest in some home equipment, and that doesn't necessarily mean going out and buying the big squat rack and all the bumper plates and all that stuff. It's just finding, whether it's just a couple kettlebells or even a jump rope, because there's a lot that you can get done with just your body weight, if especially if you're relatively new to training, so you don't need to do a whole lot, but setting up your home environment to make your life more active is going to make things so much easier.
Yeah, this is how I got started. I bought, I think, a kettlebell or two and a steel mace, and I just started with that. And the convenience of being able to do it at home made it easier for me to do regularly, and it became a habit. And over time, now I have a full squat rack. I've got adjustable dumbbells. I've got like a full home gym, because I love the convenience of having that option to me here at home. But yeah, you can start pretty. You can get some resistance bands. Our basic home program uses only resistance bands, and it takes probably somewhere around 45 minutes to do a foundational workout in that program. But if you don't have, if you're looking at your plate again, and you don't have 45 minutes that makes sense to you right now in a given day to do it, break it up. Do 10 minutes when you wake up, do 10 minutes of it before you go to bed. You've done half of it, and you've improved from your baseline, right? Like,
Yeah, it's
it
better
doesn't
than
have
doing
to,
none of it.
better than doing
That's
none of
the
it. It
key.
doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to take this on. And I struggled with that when I started. Like, I'd have a program, and I'd be like, I have to master this every time I go in the gym, and it has to be absolutely correct and perfect. And that is just so wrong. Like, it is such a journey. The improvements come over time. We've talked about that time and time again. So giving whatever you have, to it when you can, is a very good place to start. And home
Yeah.
equipment makes it really easy, because you can just wake up and do it quick.
Hmm.
Um, the next one we have on here is what we talked about last time, and it's just thinking about how to make healthy eating a bit more convenient. And we
Hmm.
talked about some different kind of things you should be focused on, from protein to fiber, and even offered some ideas for how to make, your fast food order a little bit better. But to just elaborate a bit beyond kind of the grab out of the fridge, or like really convenient kind of options for improving your protein and fiber intake, something to think about is planning your meals. Like, give some thought on a weekly basis to, what am I going to eat? And it doesn't, again, have to be perfect, right? Like, it could be, how can I guarantee that I get, if right now you're not thinking about it at all, the first thing you could do is say, how am I going to get a serving of fruit and a serving of vegetables every day? Or how am I going to make sure that I have 30 grams of protein on my plate for each meal? And sit with that, think about it, think about where you're at now, and think about how you can improve it. So the next time you go in the grocery store, maybe your list looks a little bit different. And the things in your fridge that you're grabbing for a snack are higher in protein and fiber and less, you know, packaged foods. Um, I think a theme in a lot of this is really just to kind of survey where you're at, take inventory of that, and then consider the ways that you can improve that fit into the lifestyle you already have.
Yeah. What well said, man. But look, we all know that meal prep blows. And I'm sorry if you like meal prep. I'm really happy for you. I think you're insane, but like if that works for you, that's awesome. But for the majority of people, same as it goes with tracking every scrap of food. It's one of those things that it's just not, for most people, it's not sustainable. So, I'm not advocating for meal prep here, unless you like it. But if you don't, one thing that I've found to be pretty successful is more like ingredient prep. And so I know like you are a big fan of like the pre-bag salads. That's a really convenient one. Or like pre-chopped vegetables. Now, I like to buy, whole carrots, full stalks of celery, but like what I'll do is, when I get home, just spend a couple minutes, just chop them up and put them in, different containers. And then we've got a snack, quick and easy snack to grab. We've got ingredients set up for, whatever dinner we're going to make that week. It just makes having healthy food, it just takes one less step out of it. So, yeah, if meal prep's not your jam, you are in the right place. You're in a safe space here. But there are some ways that you can just be a little bit more prepared. Your fridge can be a little bit more prepared to set you up for success.
If you don't like to cook, start cooking while doing something that you do like to do. So, like, sometimes I don't want to fucking cook, but I like to listen to podcasts. So I listen to my podcast and I just cook while I'm listening to my podcast. Or if you come home from work every day and you like to sit down and decompress with the TV, put a little TV in your kitchen and spend that time watching TV, chopping up some vegetables, or thinking about what you're going to eat for the week. That's a really good strategy for building better habits. The other tip here that I really like, I hate meal prep, but I will always cook double. So whatever I'm making for dinner, if it's for Courtney and I'll make somewhere between 4 and sometimes even 8 servings. Like, I'm already there cooking. It's not that much harder to make more. And then I either just stick it in the fridge for lunch the next day, or if there's enough of it, I'll throw some of it in the freezer. And that way I can just grab it out of the freezer and warm it up for lunch or
Oh,
dinner
yeah,
if
I
I'm
mean,
going
that's
to
a
the
great one. And then one thing, so something that I tend to struggle with is, if I'm just out of the house all day, driving around with clients, running errands, whatever, and, hunger strikes, and I am not great when I'm hungry. So one thing that I like to do is just pack a snack. I know it sounds like I'm a 7-year old, but look, if you it makes things a lot easier, to take that excuse out of hitting the drive-through one more time this week, or stopping at the gas station for a bag of chips or something that, one of those feel good snacks. Now you just have some snacks, whether that is, I usually just grab an apple and, some carrots, and that tends to be enough to tide me over until my next meal. But I really just think, the more prepared that you can be to, when these situations strike, the better off you are, and the easier it's going to become to make those healthy decisions.
Yeah, and when you pack those snacks, look for things that are high in fiber. an apple, a carrot, and or high in protein because those things will fill you up, right? They'll tide you over until it is time to eat again. Whereas if you eat
100%.
a bag of potato chips, you'll crush that puppy and probably be hungrier.
So, I tell this story to a lot of people, and I don't know if you remember it, but, there was one time I was at your house when we were in high school, and I was just housing a bag of potato chips, just absolutely housing it, and you looked over at me and you said, potato chips aren't a meal, right?" Uh, and that shit stuck with me, man, because up till that point, I just thought I was gonna eat these chips until I'm not hungry anymore, and the fact of the matter is if you do that, it's not gonna happen.
I was probably just mad that you were gonna fill up and screw up the pizza we were planning on ordering
No,
later
what
on
you
or
were
something.
mad at is I was eating the chips that were in your house. They were your chips.
Oh, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones my mom and dad bought with their hard-earned money that I was defending with my life.
Well, but I mean, yeah, you had brother and sister at home, I know how that works, man.
That's true. That's very true. I don't remember that. That's funny though.
Yeah. All right, the next thing that we have on our list, this one, like, is another one. If somebody is looking for a way to get started with, a simple health and wellness routine, it's walking. And it's not even necessarily about, I'm gonna walk for 5 miles. I'm gonna start, walking the kids to school or whatever the case may be. There are plenty of ways that you can sneak walking into your everyday life. One thing, and it drives Matea nuts, but I am a huge fan of parking in the back of whatever parking lot that we're in. I
A
will
great one.
go to the farthest away spot, and it's it's an easy way to get a few extra steps in. And is it really moving the needle one way or the other? Well, I mean, on the micro scale, probably not. But if every single time that I park the car, I'm parking a little bit farther away over the course of days, weeks, months, and years, you bet your ass that's going to have an effect.
Yeah, man, it's just all of this is just little improvements done consistently over time that add up big time. And that's just another great example of one. I mean, we've all heard the cliche, right? Like take the fucking stairs. But
Oh
there's
my
some
god,
truth to
that
that,
is
right? Like
it's such a cliche, but it's so right. Like,
it
if
is.
if you have the opportunity to take stairs and you're hopping on an elevator or escalator, I mean, unless you're lugging heavy stuff, like, there really is no reason. We've been gifted these two, strong legs underneath us. Like, we better use them, man. It's ridiculous.
It takes just as long. The building I used to work in, our office was on the 5th floor, and I would walk in with somebody who was also on the 5th floor who would go to the elevator, and I would take the stairs, and I'd beat him up on the stairs. So it's not that it's faster, right? Like, we're just it's a
It's lazy.
convenience thing. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
it's
convenient, and it takes a bit of discipline to fight what's convenient. Everything's become that way, right? Like, I heard somebody talking about how we're gonna lose a lot of our shoulder mobility because we don't even need to close our the trunk on our car anymore, right? Like, we just push the button now and the trunk closes.
same thing
Like,
with
all of these things.
backup cameras where
Yeah,
you're losing people are losing neck range of motion because they don't have to look back when they're parking their cars anymore.
yeah. So, I mean, try to make some of these things a little bit more I don't wanna say a little harder, but just, like, a little bit more like they're supposed to be or used to
Like,
be.
make life a little harder. Like,
Yeah,
the
a
thing
little
is
bit.
that life is going to be inherently stressful, but how we handle that stress a lot of times is simply based on how much stress we force ourselves to go through, those little stressors, and making sure that we're able to conquer them. It's
Mhm.
when we are just seeking the convenient life and the soft life, the easy life, that when we run into hard things, when we run into adversity, that we tend to cave. But if you force yourself to do hard things on a regular basis, it's like you talked about a few weeks back with the cold shower. It's not something that you like to do. You don't enjoy it. But one of the big reasons why you continue to go back to doing it, there are a bunch of other benefits, but there's something about just conquering that demon.
Yeah.
doing something challenging, and especially if you can stack it first thing in the morning, get a couple victories under your belt, I mean, you become so much you become so much better, so much more resilient of a human being. And so I do think that we need to make things a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And there shouldn't be any sort of stigma around that. We've
And
made life too easy. Let's make it harder again.
and I am a fan of thinking about how to prioritize walking too, right? So in the first tip, we talked about prioritizing workouts, which I think is important. But again, if you kind of take an inventory, I don't know, I guess I'm hung up on Justin's plate here, but if you take an inventory of the whole plate, think to yourself, I think a good place to start is take inventory. This is what a day looks like for me. Now, what
And
am
be
I
honest.
doing? And be honest with yourself. Like, this is from the minute I wake up to the minute I go to bed, this is what my day looks like. Take inventory of that. And I bet you'll find plenty of time for a workout and a walk because you probably spend some time watching TV. You probably there's all you go to lunch with your friends, and it may require a little bit of sacrifice, which is an important point that I think we wanted to make up front is like you do have to want to do it, but by understanding the value that comes with doing it, it becomes a bit easier to figure out how to prioritize it. And I'll tell you what, at 20, it maybe didn't matter so much, but at 33 and as I get closer to 40 and 50, if I don't prioritize it now, I will pay for it later. I can promise you that. So when
100%.
you're inventorying that, think to yourself like, where can I get a 10-minute walk in twice a day? Can I
Mhm.
do you have to get up 10 minutes earlier? Do you have
Probably
to
not. Probably
May
not.
probably not. Maybe
Or
maybe
maybe.
just, you'll find the room for it, right? And taking 2 10-minute walks a day, 365 days a year for 5 years will have a huge impact on your health.
Yeah, and that is another thing that I think is so important is remembering the why here and playing the long game. Because of course everybody gets into fitness because they want to look better. And if somebody says that they're not into it for that, they're lying. But we also, you understand that there's so much more to it than that. Because if that was the only thing, then there are some, we would just be going about things vastly differently. But understanding that we are playing the long game here, and all you have to do is be a little bit better of a person than you were yesterday. And if you can just have those stack those wins, and it doesn't have to be 7 days a week, but if you can do it 6 out of 7 days, 5 out of 7 days consistently, then the person that you look at in the mirror 1 year, 2 years, 5 years later is going to be the person that you want to be, not the person that you wish you were.
And that's when it'll show if you're in it for aesthetics, that's why people quit, right? Like, because for one of 2 reasons. One, they never achieve what they're after because their expectations are completely unrealistic and or they're so hypercritical of themselves that what they see in the mirror it isn't even reality, right? Like there's so much of that, especially with social media and the way they portray what you're supposed to look like if you're working out. It's just not realistic. And then the other challenge is that it takes time to achieve that. And if that's your only ambition and the only value you're seeking out of better nutrition and better workouts is the way that you look, you're going to quit because a month later you're not going to look drastically different, and therefore you're not going to be achieve you're going to have given a month to something that was really never ever even attainable, and that's why so many people quit. So you're so right, like there's so many other whys in all this. We've talked about a lot of them, from mental health to as you get older being able to kick the soccer ball around with your kid in the backyard to being a better person at work because your brain's a bit sharper. They go on and on and on to feeling better, to having less diarrhea, whatever it is. There's a million different benefits that can come with this, and it's really important to pay attention to those. The what will happen when all that cascades is you'll look in the mirror one day and be like, "Damn, this is pretty awesome."
So let's the record show we made it about 35 minutes into the episode before we talked about diarrhea. So there we go. That might be a record for us, but we got there, folks. So don't you worry.
It's had a huge impact on my life, Matt.
All right. The last thing that we have on our list to round out our top five, is to have a plan. There is nothing more. I love walking into the gym, and if you spend any time in the gym, you can very easily see the people that have a plan and those that don't. Um, Having a plan is just takes another decision out of your day, and it decreases that resistance. So, there are a thousand different plans out there. Find the one that works best for you. Uh, and it will make things just so much easier because it gets hard day after day to show up to the gym and be like, well, now what? And now what? And now what? And it becomes really easy to lean into the things that we like to do, to avoid the things that we don't. But if you find a coach or a well-rounded workout program that works well for you, you're going to ensure that you're constantly progressing, and it just takes one major step out of the process.
Yeah, if somebody asked me what's the number one thing I can invest in this year to improve my health, it would just be an off the shelf workout program aligned with my goals to some degree, right? Like less than $100 for sure. Something that's going to last you probably 3 to 4 months time. Something you can recycle again. It's absolutely invaluable. People are like that to spend money on a bottle of pills that's going to trim a centimeter off their waist when it really won't.
Yeah.
But a workout plan program is so incredibly invaluable. We have a couple of them available on our website. People are selling them all over the place, right? Like ours are great. There's one you can do at home for free. There's one you can take to the gym. Again, it's designed and built off of our trial and error from 6+ years each of working out in gyms and trying to sort through what actually works. Um, but there's other ones out there, right? Like find something that's aligned with your goals, find it from people that you trust, from people that are communicating a message that resonates with you, and go give that 3 months and see what happens. Like it will be transformational to your life in so
Yeah.
many ways.
Take the greens powder out of the cart, send back the collagen and buy a good workout program, because you're exactly right. It is going to have a way bigger impact than any supplement that you could buy. But of
It,
course, that it ties into everything else that we've been saying this whole time. You got to want to change.
yeah,
And that's the difficult thing is, when you purchase a workout program, it's not a silver bullet. You have to show up and you have to do the work. But if you find one that meets you where you're at, that is in alignment with the goals that you have, it is going to be so transformational. And like you said, most of them last between 10 to 12 weeks. So give yourself 3 months, just 3 months, and you are going to be amazed with the things that you've accomplished. So um yeah, I mean, I couldn't recommend anything more.
I could. There's one thing I could recommend further,
All right.
and it's a coach or trainer
Oh, sure.
because
Yeah.
because so this is how you kind of tie all this together, right? Like a good coach or trainer is gonna have a conversation with you, and they're gonna say, "Show me what's on your plate." Sort of tell me what you do from the minute you wake up to the minute you go to bed. Now let's figure out how important to you your nutrition and exercise are. Now let's figure out where we can fit and how much we can fit in to a given week and figure out what your goals are. And then from there, they can help you design something, a program, a diet, etc., a grocery list, etc., that's tailored to your life, that fits into that fits on that plate or makes the plate bigger and just incredibly invaluable. To your point about taking the greens powders out of the cart, it's like we're so quick and willing to spend hundreds of dollars a month on silly supplements, and that's because we think that they're things we can simply ingest or take in the morning that are going to have these transformational impacts. It does take an investment from you. It takes a little bit of sacrifice. I don't even know if that's the right word, right? But it does take some effort, and having a coach or a trainer to support you through making your ambition, your whatever you're doing, fit seamlessly into your life and be in alignment with your goals is invaluable, priceless.
Hmm. Yeah. And so now normally I say plug talk for a little bit later in the show, but this seems as good of a time as any. I mean, seriously, guys, if this stuff resonates with you, or if you're sitting here and you're like, yeah, like that all sounds great. Where do I go? Head on over to our website, thebasictrainer.com. We have two workout programs that we've mentioned a ton of times. Basic Home is a free 12-week at-home strength training program that all you need is a set of resistance bands. And we even include in that program some links to some resistance bands that we recommend. Uh, if you're in the gym or trying to get into the gym and looking for something a little bit more comprehensive, try out the basic muscle. It is a 12-week strength training program that, like Dylan said, it's exactly what we wanted when we were getting back into this stuff. And so, I need to keep saying it because I really believe in this stuff. We worked really hard to put it out there. We filmed a bunch of instructional videos so that you guys know exactly what you're supposed to be doing in there. And here's the other thing: is right now we are interested in doing whatever we can to help you guys. So I have people that reach out through Instagram, asking questions about the programs, and we get back to you guys with as thoughtful of answers as we can possibly provide because we really want you guys to all succeed. So head on over to our website. Please, please, please check it out, like the podcast, subscribe to it. We've got the YouTube channel, we've got our Instagram handles. Um, we just love this stuff and we want to keep providing as much value as we can for you. So now that the plug talk is over, let's head on over to the question and answer portion of the program. So Dylan, what's our question this week?
So this week, somebody's wondering about workout straps. So for those that aren't familiar, they're essentially a piece of cloth that you'd use around your wrist. There's a few different varieties of workout straps, but the most common ones are cloth, and then you can wrap them around a barbell or a dumbbell, and it takes a lot of the grip out of the exercise itself. So if you're doing something like a deadlift, at a certain point, your lower body and back may be able to deadlift more weight, but it's your grip strength that's ultimately the limiting factor. And so therefore you could use something like a strap to take the grip strength factor out of it so you could increase the weight. Same thing with a single arm dumbbell row, any back work, any grip, any lift you're doing that requires grip, where grip can become a limiting factor, straps could potentially be beneficial. But I think the question is, should I use them? When should I use them? How should I use them?
Okay, that's a great question. So, like you said, straps are meant for carry exercises and for pull exercises. So, something like a deadlift, a heavy walking lunge or Bulgarian split squat. Those movements. Straps are definitely an option. Any sort of row or pull variation, straps can come into play there. Uh, when you want to use them is when you're trying to get a jacked back. Uh, because at some point you are going to your grip strength will always become a barrier to growing your back. So if that is a group of muscles that you're interested in getting bigger and stronger, then I highly recommend getting a cheap set of workout straps. Now, I wouldn't use them for every set and every exercise because there is value in developing grip strength. So in the gym when I'm working with clients, we always start without straps and we go without straps as long as we possibly can. And then eventually what's going to happen is we're going to run into an exercise, whether it's bench row or deadlift, and the limiting factor is going to be the grip and not the targeted muscle group. And once we get to that point, that's when we're going to start to work in the straps. So I think, yeah, they're an easy one if you are just if you go to the gym and you're just looking for something cheap and easy to add to your toolbox to help build a stronger back and lower body. Super easy thing that you can do. But again, really something that we should just rely on once the grip becomes a barrier.
Yeah, I think if your goal is just to be functionally strong and you don't really have any goals around building muscle or aesthetics, I would never use them, right? Like I would let my grip be the limiting factor until my grip is strong enough to do that exercise because grip is incredibly important for functional strength. But I think the point you're making is true. Once building muscle, hypertrophy, aesthetics, etc., become a greater priority for you, I would go as long as you can without them. But they are a great tool to have so that you can progress those movements without the grip being the limiting factor. So for me, if I'm doing a heavy deadlifts, if it's heavy enough, it's typically my first set I'll do without them, and then I'll use straps after that. So I do get, I train the grip a bit, but if I were to do another set, I wouldn't be able to hold on to the bar long enough to complete my next set. So I use the straps. So they're a tool, right? But it can be abused. If you use it too much, your grip strength is going to be incredibly weak and mismatched from the rest of the muscles that you're building, which is not necessarily a good thing. So it sort of depends on the goal. Great tool to have. Um, I think that kind of summarizes it.
Nailed it. All right. Let's wrap up the show with the best segment probably ever created in podcast history. It is the I Lift a sad song of the week. Dylan, it is your song this week. What you got?
I'm going with one I don't know if you've heard. It's not off the list of classics that I would typically submit to the playlist, but it's by a band called Vacation Manor.
Okay.
Does it ring a bell?
No.
The song is called "Say We'll Make It," and this is where I really wish we could play it and jam
I
out to
know.
it.
Oh man,
Um,
yeah. Like I wanna I'm pulling it up right now. What did you say it was called?
it's called "Say We'll Make It,"
Damn. All right.
and so your homework and every other listener's homework, as soon as this podcast is over, because you're probably already on Spotify or Apple Music,
Yeah.
is to put this jam on and go get in a workout.
Say you make it and say the band one more time.
Vacation Manor.
Got it. Got it. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.